Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. India's gold imports plummet by 99.5%. Let's explore. That's right, this is an article from Bloomberg.com. It's talking about sort of the push and pull of the markets in terms of gold. You know, there's a lot more demand now for gold coins, rounds, and bars by consumers. But I tell you what, the coronavirus and the COVID-19 situation has put a damper on getting gold places, especially in terms of the imports between nations here. And this is an example here how India's gold imports have fallen drastically. India, which is the world's biggest consumer of gold after China, imported its lowest monthly volumes in at least a decade after curbs to control the coronavirus pandemic grounded air transport and shuttered jewelry stores. Overseas purchases slumped 99.5% to 60 kilos in April from 13 tons a month ago, according to a person with knowledge of provisional finance ministry data who asked not to be identified as the information is not public yet. That will be the lowest monthly inflow in records going back to 2010, according to data available with Metals Focus Ltd. Finance Ministry spokesperson Rajesh Malhotra wasn't immediately available for comment. I don't expect a recovery in imports or demand for the next 3 to 5 months at least, Chirag Sarasleth, a consultant at London-based Metals Focus, said by phone from Mumbai. Manufacturing in the sector will also take a hit due to scarcity of workers who have returned to their hometowns after the virus outbreak, he said. A nationwide lockdown, which has been in place since the 25th of March, has rippled through the country's economy, hitting income, jobs, and shuttering many industries, including airlines and gems and jewelry. Imports were negligible in April, as most of the country's imports are typically shipped by air, with a smaller volume coming via land from either Bangladesh or Nepal, said Anantha Padmanabhan, chairman of the All India Gem and Jewelry Domestic Council. He estimates imports will halve this year to about 350 tons. While India has eased some restrictions, that's likely to help salvage economic growth this quarter or even the fiscal year as consumption continues to suffer. Gross domestic product is expected to contract by 24.8% year on year in the quarter started in April, while getting the economy back on track is likely to be beset by multiple challenges as a resumption of activity faces hurdles, including abiding by new virus protection protocols and supply-side problems of labor and working capital, according to Bloomberg Economics. Most jewelry stores across the country continue to be closed in what is turning out to be one of the longest shutdowns ever. It is something. I tell you what, we talk about what's the effect here in the United States as a virus has really hit our country hard. There's other nations around the world who are still reeling from this and will be for quite some time. It's going to take a while for us to recover from this thing for sure. Most jewelry stores across the country continue to be closed, and what is turning out to be one of the longest ever. The worst part is even if we open the stores, who will come to buy? Padmanabhan said. They will question if it is very much required to exchange or buy jewelry, or is it safer to be at home. And I think that's what we're going to see here in the United States too, at least to some degree, is some people will not just burst out once things start to open up. It's going to take a while for things to normalize and for people to feel comfortable venturing out, even with a mask and social distancing in place. Some people may be afraid to for a while. But I think as long as you have the precautions in place, most of us should be fine. The idea is we want to try to stir economic activity And, there's 42 states now here in the U.S. that have already started phase one of the president's coronavirus open up America again measures, which are very cautious things to be able to start to make a movement towards opening up. This is something that's good news for sure. At least it's a start. But there is damage that cannot be undone at this point, at least anytime soon. It's going to take quite a while, where even the president himself and his economic advisors have said here in the United States that we really won't see a full recovery until the beginning of next year. And to me, that's still a little bit overly optimistic. But I do hope he's right. It is just, it's something that's been very discouraging to see here amidst everything that's happening. But the gold market is being pushed. And it is, we have the one side where there's a lot more demand for it, and it's tough getting product into the hands of people. On the other hand, it's not being delivered when it is available. And so the demand for it, and in fact, I've talked about this in a prior video, and I think especially when you have nations like Russia that has suspended buying gold. In fact, they've been requested to start buying gold again, but I don't know if that's actually has started happening yet. But when you have national reserve banks, when they're not buying gold, that means the demand for it is going to be grossly affected, because that's one of the biggest demands out there in terms of actually keeping it, holding it. And obviously there are other demands out there in terms of the economic or the industrial aspect of it, but there's not as much of that as there is for silver out there. And I think that's why the market for silver and the physical is reacting so much differently than gold at this point. Gold is essentially propped up mainly by the ETFs, by the paper markets. But nonetheless, we'll see how this plays out. But there is that push and pull. This is one area, this is one headline that could actually drive gold prices lower in the short term, and which could reflect that deflationary period where the prices go down before they go up again. And I believe that will reflect itself with silver prices too, and the spot prices and paper spot prices may not necessarily reflect itself in the physical prices, which means that premiums could actually increase on silver and gold in another downturn because of situations like this. Because a lot of this is jewelry we're talking about here. India, per capita, they're the largest consumer of gold by their culture, but although there is a lot of that in China too, but I think China's accumulation of it is also from the central bank in China. And I think that is a part of it too that drives a lot of its demand. But India is kind of unique. There's also silver demand as well too. In fact, we talked about India's demand for silver in lieu of high gold prices. But where is that? I don't know what India's silver imports are looking like right now. Here we can see some numbers released of July of last year for Indian silver imports. And a lot of that we can see that is up from the prior years, especially since 2017. But it's still far behind. But that is reports from the middle of the year, as this was released in July of 2019. So more than likely, as we get new numbers for this could break records for Indian silver imports, as I talked about in a prior video where they had massively imported silver to offset the higher prices for gold. But nonetheless, this is certainly some interesting news coming to us here early in May. And as we get numbers coming in from April for a minuscule 60 kilos. And that's something else to say, especially when they're predicting that there may be dropped 50% to about 350 tons for this year. That will be something to see. So there you have it. News of the day about India's gold imports. A lot to digest here. It's really tough to really kind of predict where the prices will go because of information like this. But headlines like this typically don't bode well for spot prices. I wouldn't think they should, but who knows? We're in an upside down world at this point, unprecedented, all the different things that are happening here. So post your thoughts below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.